call the Concord School Committee meeting to order, and note that we are being recorded. And welcome everyone. Let's see, Sarah, as Vice Chair of the region, can you call the region to order?
I'll bring the region meeting to order. And
great.
Yep, we're just.
Yep. And whoops, sorry.
No, I thought Eva was coming in, but I don't see her.
Yeah. Okay, not yet. So I'll just quickly welcome everybody and everybody who's
Heather, you need a roll call to come to order.
I noted we're being recorded, but I also should say we're also being broadcast live on Zoom as well as on the on Minuteman Network. So anybody can find us there.
Heather, you need a roll call on Zoom.
Anything is to seat ourselves. So we first have to seat our new committee.
Heather.
Oh yeah.
Roll call.
Roll call. One of these days, we'll remember this, and then it won't be my job anymore. Okay, so I will do a roll call. Thank you. For all present, Booth.
Present.
Rainey.
Here.
Mezdad.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Wilson.
Here for region.
And we do not have Eva yet, right? Eva? I don't think so. Okay, but we're assuming she'll join us. Okay. Have I forgotten anything else important?
and Heather Bowd is definitely here.
And Heather Bowd is here, present. That's what I forgot. Thank you, Court. Usually Wally does the roll call. I'm not as used to doing that part. I got to turn you guys up. I can't hear you. Okay. Now then, we have to actually seat our committees. So the first thing we do is seat the Concord School Committee. And let me see. No, I'm not looking at a linked wording. Do we have wording here? One of us can just move that, correct, Laura? Is it okay if I just move it?
Yeah, I think so.
I will move to seat Court Booth, Cynthia Rainey, Alexa Anderson, Fatima Mezdad, and Heather Bout as the members of the Concord School Committee. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Great. Any discussion on that?
Yes, it seems very odd voting ourselves into a job we already have obligated ourselves to fulfill. But
True.
Protocol is protocol.
But we'll do it anyway. Then by roll call, we'll take a vote on that. And I'm going by the pictures on my pictures on my screen, so take no offense at the order. Booth.
Aye.
Rainey.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Mezdad.
Aye.
And Bout, aye. Congratulations. We are seated as the Concord members of as the Concord School Committee. Okay, before we get to CC, we will do election of chair and vice chair for the Concord School Committee. Do we have a nomination for chair of the Concord School Committee?
I'll nominate Court Booth as chair of the Concord School Committee.
And I would love to second that. Are there any other nominations? Wonderful. Then before we comment, Court, let's make sure you are willing to accept this nomination.
Well, I think everybody in the room is capable, but I think my turn might have come up. I'm prepared to do it as long as I've got a strong vice chair. And when I look around the room, I think that'll probably be so. And I'll be filling your shoes, Heather. So I think the leadership that you have shared with the district and the Concord School Committee is going to hold me in good stead. I'll do my best.
Well, thank you. And I will just comment that I greatly appreciate that Court is willing to take this on. He's been on the committee with us for a couple of years now and has shown great leadership already from whatever seat he has been in. And I was very much hoping he would be willing to do this. I feel like we will be in very, very good hands. And I can even say an improvement over the past year.
Wow. I think that's going a bit too far, but we'll debate that offline.
Okay. Any other comments? Great, then let's take a vote. All in favor of Court Booth being chair of the Concord School Committee?
Roll call.
By roll call, I will still do it. I'll leave you for last, Court. Rainey,
Aye.
Mesdad,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
and Bouts, aye, which makes it unanimous. Court, you are now our chair.
So thank you for your faith in what I can bring to the committee. As I said, I'll do my best. We are still in order, and our next item of business is the election of a vice chair for the Concord School Committee. And I wonder if we have a nomination. I certainly have some thoughts about this, but I wonder if anybody else might care to share a nomination.
I would love to nominate Cynthia Rainey as vice chair of the Concord School Committee.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alexa. And
From Fatima, I think that was.
was that Fatima? Forgive me. Thank you. That's why I said that. Good. Thank you, Fatima. Second from Fatima. And discussion. I'd lead off with Cynthia has been with us as a school committee member for 1 year, is steeped in knowledge about the Concord and Concord Carlisle schools, and it will give me a great deal of confidence to know that she's the vice chair this year. So, Cynthia, I hope you'll accept.
Very happy to serve.
Wonderful. And I would echo that, saying that Cynthia's been on the school committee for 1 year really seems to pale to her real experience, because she's been involved both in the schools and school committee issues in town governance for so long that her experience is deep and wide, and we will definitely benefit from it with her in a leadership role. So thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
So other comments? If not, we'll move to a roll call. And we'll start with what I see for members on our screen. Mesdad
Aye.
and Rainey
Aye.
and Anderson
Aye.
and Bout
Aye.
and Booth, aye. Thank you, Cynthia.
Happy
And,
Thank you both.
and I believe we will now turn it over to you, Sarah.
We have a recording.
Are we going to do that next?
We have to appoint the recording
To
secretary.
appoint the recording secretary.
Forgive me. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep, I'm still up on the Concord. So I believe that this is a continuation of a expert staff function, is it not, Dr. Hunter? Or-
The recording.
Yes, but we have to
Yes.
appoint. So
Yes.
I'll move to nominate Erin Higgins as the recording secretary for the Concord School Committee.
Second, from Cynthia.
Okay, discussion?
I know she's here, but I'll speak for her in saying she's expecting to return to the role.
Okay. Good, because we've trusted in her for years and wouldn't want to do without her. So that's my comment.
Good. So with that, we thank Erin for taking this on, and by roll call, forgive me, let me back up. Do we have a second on that? Remind me. We do. Okay.
We do.
So roll call, Mesdad
Aye.
and Rainey
Aye.
and Anderson
Aye.
and Bout
Aye.
and Booth, aye. And thank you, Erin. Okay. So we have a chair, a vice chair, and the reappointment of Erin Higgins for the recording secretary for the Concord School Committee. And Sarah, I'll turn to you and we'll,
Actually, Court, we don't have a, oh, Sarah is vice chair to do, okay, sorry, gotcha.
well,
Yeah.
it's unusual, but perfectly legitimate to proceed
Yep.
that way, I think. Sarah, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I guess the first order of business is the seating of the Concord Carlisle School Committee members. And so do we make a motion to?
I'll make a motion.
Yep.
I will move that we seat Sarah Wilson, Eva Mustafi, Fatima Mezdad, Alexa Anderson, Cynthia Rainey, Court Booth, and Heather Bout as the members of the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee.
Is there a second?
Second
Second.
from Cynthia.
Discussion? Okay,
We're all in, we're all in.
we're all in. Yay. Roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
Bout,
Aye.
Mezdad,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Wilson, aye. Okay, and now we need to take care of the election of the chair and vice chair. So can we have a nomination for a chair of the
I
region?
would like to nominate Sarah Wilson as chair of the Regional School Committee.
Are there other nominations?
I'll second that one.
Oh, sorry.
Uh,
Any other nominations? No?
Sarah, don't look so hopeful.
Okay.
I will just comment that I know it is not even unusual, probably unheard of, that we would ask someone to chair the region when they have not actually been on the region for at least a full year. But what are we good at if not unusual this year, right? Sarah's been on the committee for just a couple of months now, since we were able to seat our Carlisle members a few months ago. And I think I speak for all of us when we've been just so happy to have her here. Her level-headedness and thoughtful questions and comments have already been of value. And I feel very confident that she's going to do a great job leading us through this in a year that's going to be different from most others anyway.
Yeah, I would certainly echo that. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, I look forward to working with everybody. So can we discussion? That's it. Can we have a roll call vote? Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
Bout,
Aye.
Mezdad,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Wilson, aye. Okay.
Thank you for doing it, Sarah.
Happy to. Can we have a motion for a vice chair for the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee?
Well, this one may be difficult because I'm going to dive in and recommend that Heather not leave her leadership role quite yet on this committee and serve as the vice chair. I nominate Heather Bout as the vice chair of the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee.
I second that.
Heather, with uncertain times continuing, I think that you referred to Sarah's level-headed leadership. I think you bring that too, and I think you can help support the seven of us in the role of vice chair this year. I hope it's not too onerous, but we don't know yet.
We won't know, but I'm happy to do it, whatever it entails, in any way I can.
I echo all of what Court said.
So I think we need a
Thank you,
second.
Heather.
Happy to.
Can I assume that was a second? Was that a
That's a second.
second, Sarah?
That's a second.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion? Roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
Bout,
Aye.
Mezdad,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Wilson? Aye. Okay. And so now we have to move on to the appointment of the Concord Carlisle School Committee Recording Secretary.
Mhm.
Can I entertain a motion for nomination?
I will move again that Erin Higgins be appointed as the recording secretary for the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Cynthia?
Discussion?
We'll echo our previous thanks.
Echo our previous comments, exactly.
A roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
Bout,
Aye.
Mezdad, Rainey,
Aye.
Wilson, aye. And we need to appoint a treasurer for the school committee. Can I have a motion for a nomination for a treasurer for the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee?
I move that
Her name
Jared.
is Allison Brake.
Go ahead, Jared.
Allison Brake is her name.
Okay, so Allison on our behalf. Good, thank you. So I move that Allison Brake be appointed as the treasurer for the Concord Carlisle School Committee.
Is there a second?
Second from Cynthia.
Discussion?
Yeah, as a technicality, is it indeed an appointment for the school committee or for the region? What's the language? Do we know?
It's on our agenda. It's said for the Concord Carlisle School Committee.
This is a regional position, 100% paid for by the region.
But as treasurer for the Concord Carlisle School Committee, not for the district. Is that what you're clarifying, Court?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just curious, technically, should the language read, as the agenda says, treasurer for the Concord Carlisle School Committee or Concord Carlisle Regional School District?
So we use
It's
the language,
one and the same, but,
yeah, we use the language as it's always existed.
okay. But de facto, she serves for the region. Okay,
Of course.
I'm content with that.
I think because you're appointing her, it's in the language of the committee rather than the district. But yes, all one and the same.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we need a second, Sarah.
Yep. Is there a second?
I think Cynthia did.
Yeah.
Cynthia did. Okay, good.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye.
Booth,
Aye.
Bout,
Aye.
Mesdad,
Aye.
Rainey,
Aye.
Wilson, I. And I think, so now we move on to liaisons.
I think we're good. I'll just make one comment on behalf of those of you who just took the chair seats. Not only appreciation, but apologies that you don't get the little ceremony that we usually get to go through it around our table, which is where you actually get to kick us out of our chairs and we move over to the side. So pretend that you've kicked us out of our actual chairs and are now at the head of the table.
Very good. So we have the liaison roles. I'd like to move that we move item 2, the public comment, up to the present time, if that's acceptable.
I'll move that we move public comment up before the liaison discussion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote. Anderson,
Sure. Yep.
Booth,
Aye for both.
Bout,
Aye for both.
Mesdad,
Aye for both.
Rainey,
Aye for both?
Wilson, I for region.
Okay. So now,
It's our custom now to ask if there are any public comments and ask that people go to the participant link at the bottom of your Zoom screen and then move to the raise hand function in the list. We've got a small number of attendees tonight, unusually small given our Zoom participation of late.
mhm.
And I don't think we see any raised hands, so we will move on, Sarah, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So that brings us back to the liaison roles, and some of these are region, some of these are Concord, but I think we need to go through these in their entirety because we're looking to, how should I say this, deploy us the best way we can to represent the school committee elsewhere and to bring information back to the school committee to inform us in our role. I wonder if an approach might be to discuss each one very briefly, get a sense of who might be willing, eager, capable on each one, and then go through them a second time with some agreement and finality to it for the year. Would that make sense?
Yes.
So that we don't lock into one early before we've exhausted the conversation. Sarah, do you want to take us through the list? How do you want to do this?
Yep, although you're more familiar with, well, we can start, but if you can give a little more
Sure.
shape to the roles themselves, as I'm not as familiar with them.
Very good. Okay.
All right, so we can start with the Adult and Community Education Liaison.
Yeah, this is a school committee member who will attend the Adult and Community Education Advisory Board meetings, usually once a month. It's been a role that has not been fulfilled well in the last year, but the Adult and Community Advisory Committee and the regional staff that work for that department know that they can reach out to their liaison anytime. Again, it's usually one meeting a month. I believe late afternoon in the 4 o'clock neighborhood, 10 months a year, something like that.
Okay.
We really, in checking with members about who was taking on this role last year, we can assume for practical purposes nobody was, so we're not looking for any continuation. Is there somebody who would be willing to get a little closer to that self-funded, community-facing part of the school district that does the continuing ed?
So I thought, so maybe we should go through the description and the amount of time each of
Okay.
these require. And then I think just then we could go, unless somebody can jump up and say that they want to do this. I think some of the things in the list, as most of you know, are no longer active.
Okay, I'll sail through this as quickly as I can if you want, Cynthia, and people can stop me as I go. We'll just do a high level run through, and Lori can stop, interrupt me, and add at any time. EDCO advisory, we have elected to withdraw from EDCO at the end of this fiscal year. We know that Carlisle is continuing with EDCO, and we know that Lori is on the board of directors. This is a
But I would
liaison.
just add to that we got notice of the director's resignation on Tuesday. So there's a major leadership transition coming as well.
Got it. All right. Thank you. All the more reason for whatever stability we can bring to bear in our final year with an organization that has served us rather well until things got turbulent.
Yeah, I can just add a little bit to that. So we voted to withdraw. We can rescind that vote at any time. So I think it's a year of a lot of close watching and participating in
Mhm.
EDCO. The board did not vote to dissolve as an institution. I think we had a lot of discussion of that. So EDCO itself, as of the moment, is going forward. We do have the option to withdraw at the end of the year. So, and now with a leadership change on top of the fiscal challenges, it might, it hasn't been an active school committee role because I am on the board and attend all the time, and the role would be more advisory, but a lot of school committees do actively engage, and it might be a year where 2 of us in the room are a good idea. So meetings are generally once a month on Thursday mornings, and they are obviously remote now. They're usually in Bedford. I don't know if they'll be in Bedford this year, but they've been in Bedford unless they're virtual.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Concord Finance Committee Observer. This is a advisory group that fulfills a pretty vital function looking at Concord's efforts to be fiscally stable and sustainable, as they might say. providing guidelines and some monitoring and oversight for town and school budgets. They meet Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. I believe, Cynthia, you've been most active in this function for us
Yep.
thus far. Okay.
Yep.
The CCTV Advisory Board, that is one and the same with the PEG Advisory Board. So we'll strike number 4.
Mhm.
The PEG Advisory Board, that's the now town-operated cable television service. Also broadcasts on broadband and operates out of Townhouse and elsewhere with a studio at the high school. I believe their meetings are on Wednesday nights monthly at about 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
The policy subcommittee is a critical one for us because that's not a liaison, that's membership on a subcommittee. This is a formal subcommittee of the school committee, typically a regional member and a Concord member or 2 Concord members. The function here is keep in touch with the MASC folks and their legal advice as to recommended changes. B, to look at policies that we believe require attention because they might pursue strategy that we believe is important for the schools. And C, an ongoing housekeeping to see that all those many policies stay current. That typically is a once a month. We meet with Lori and we meet with the policy expert out of MASC, Dorothy Presser. Often it's been on a Thursday at 10 in the morning or 9:30, but that isn't required. It's not so much a monthly obligation as an ad hoc obligation, meaning we're not looking for work that isn't there, but of late there has been plenty of work required there. The Concord Select Board Observer, this is a liaison role, and this is the Monday night Concord Select Board that I believe is reverting back to its more customary 7 o'clock hour. I think that's what's happening, although they've been meeting earlier recently, as have we. And that's an important role. That's a must that we have a rather regular observer there. CC at Play, can't speak much to that.
It can be stricken. They're not active.
Dormant right now, right?
The Youth Advisory Council, I believe this was a town function. I don't believe it's active at the present time.
That's in 17, according to the website.
The Financial Audit Advisory Committee, this is a Concord town function, a group that is convened by the town finance manager. Their next meeting, they informed us today, is going to be, I believe, early in the morning on Tuesday, September 29. And this is a group that reviews the town and school audits.
How often do they meet? I mean, the next meeting is the 29th.
I wish I could say. I met with them once and then we shut down for 6 months. But I believe it's probably 6 meetings a year, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's not very frequent. No.
The League of Women Voters Education Committee, this is a group within the Concord Carlisle League of Women Voters that does some programming and do they perhaps also host candidates activities? I don't know. Or if that's another group within the league.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't know what their schedule is looking like. I know they haven't met for a while. Heather, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble with my button here. Yeah, they have not met for a while. They don't tend to do candidate things. I think that's another part of the League of Women Voters. The Education Committee, right, is really focused on the schools and what their schools are doing. I've been a liaison to them for most of the past several years, and a lot of times they just really appreciate having somebody at every meeting that they have to update them on what we're doing, and they can ask a lot of questions, and it's a great collaborative relationship. And the meeting is monthly, usually mid-morning.
Okay.
On a Friday, I think, usually, but who knows?
It's been Fridays for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
What is, where do we stand, or whether there's a conflict of interest? If there is a school committee member who is also a member of the League of Women Voters, does that stop them from being a school committee rep or not?
Nope.
No, not at all.
No, we would simply
Most of us are.
recuse ourselves from any league advocacy that involved the schools.
Yeah.
If they took a position, you would formally recuse and let people know you had done so. The Comprehensive Long Range Plan Committee, can someone help us out there? That's a town, Concord town.
No longer running.
That's done.
CPAC is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, very active group. And I know that Eva was a representative last year. I believe, Cynthia, you were an alternate, if I'm correct.
Well, usually we have a person from each of the districts.
Okay, so that's a region and a CPS two-person function. Okay, tell us when they meet generally. Do we
It's
know?
usually Thursday nights at 7.
Okay, so that's going to be a FinCom conflict once a month. FinCom meets this time of year more than once a month.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Carlisle Board of Selectmen and Carlisle Finance Committee. We know that we have Dave Modell representing the Carlisle Select Board with us, and we'll want to have a reciprocal role with the Carlisle Select Board. As to the Finance Committee, we know that Melissa McMorrow has been so informed about the region and a member now of the Carlisle FinCom that she's been a valuable link to us, which has served in lieu of having a formal appointment by or understanding that we had a school committee rep liaise to them, but we certainly could.
Yeah, I think Court last year, David was as school
Mhm.
committee member because he had history on the finance committee.
Got it. Okay.
But I do think it's important that a sitting Carlisle member take on some of that liaison. It always is. Jared and I do a good amount of it, and I'm sure David will do what Melissa does, is reach out to us. But I think it's just important the committee have representation.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Mhm. And the absence would be would not benefit us.
No, it's good to committee representative to committee representative. We're
Right.
meant to be the provider of the information, and then you can work through some of the other pieces. So.
CMS facilities, I believe we exchanged that with the CMS building committee,
Correct.
where we appoint 2 of our members to the Concord Town Government Middle School Building Committee. So that's the building committee, and Heather and I have been serving this past year.
My sense of that is, talking to Tim and Dawn, the chairs, probably October, we're going to try to get some momentum going again.
Mhm.
And then those of you who've done it, then it's a every other week commitment at least. So
correct. And that often is a Thursday
At least.
morning or has been in the past.
Right.
Other ones that we may want to consider.
And I'll just, on the building committee, it's appointed by the select board is something.
Correct. Yes.
So,
So you don't have anything to do here today at this
Right.
point.
exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Other ones that have been mentioned, the Capital Planning Task Force for the Town of Concord, the Concord Climate Action Advisory Board, the Concord Transportation Committee, and the Concord Board of Health. And finally on, well, now a couple of others to just mention. We may not be able to fill all of these roles. We have the chair's breakfast, so that would be Sarah or I or both of us. For Concord, that's the typically the third Wednesday of the month as a rule. This week it's happening, yes, on the third Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. And then one more that has been mentioned, and that is the Recreation Commission in both towns in the district. So it's not a small list.
Can I add something, please?
Also, oh, go ahead.
Something that's not on the list that I've been thinking about, and I would like for us to have a conversation about maybe having a school committee member sitting on participating in the goal of the cultural competency and anti-racism. I would something that's that I'm interested in taking a part in as a school committee member, and I wonder if we could have that conversation. Dr. Hunter, would like to have your input on that.
Do we have enough definition around that, Lori, to know what school committee link might look like?
Well, I can tell you what it is right now and why. We've really created a staff-based group. And yes, there have definitely been mention at times of parent membership and student membership. And Kristen's mindset so far, and I've supported this, has really been to work with teachers at an educator level in a professional role rather than as a community piece. So I've talked with other districts. I've had some of these same questions. I talked with other districts. Some districts use a representative committee to kind of do an umbrella oversight of all the cultural competency work, which I think would be different than what we're running right now. And it's the professional group really hones in on curriculum and some other pieces of that rather than the big broad picture. Kristen's certainly doing a bit of both, but it's very highly geared toward educator practice. So it's a conversation we could have. I'll be a little hesitant. I think you're going to hear this from me a lot right at this moment in time. Anyway, I'm a little hesitant to create another committee in the middle of opening school with COVID. I hear why you're asking, Fatima, and I think it's the right time. It probably makes great sense to have that representative group. I've talked with Wellesley and Needham are some of the front runners in this work, comparative districts to us. They both run those kinds of representative groups with students, teachers, parents, community members, and really have that big picture umbrella. So where we are right now is a professional-based group versus a community-based group, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't move towards creating the community-based group. I'm just unsure of the timing.
What I would offer up is we're not a professional group and we're not a community group. We're an elected school committee. And so what I'm hearing described is something I understand, and that is that we've got strategic objectives at a very high level, and we have a senior administrator and professional development at a staff level, and a lot of space in between those two. And so I think over time, and I don't mean to delay this, but rather I think we could pay attention to your point, Lori, is putting a committee in that space between strategy at a very high level and Kristen's work with faculty at the school-based level the way to go. And where does the school committee land in that? Does it require a committee between strategy and professional development? Or are there other ways that the school committee could be closer to, liaison with, more informed about our cultural competency objectives? Because I think this committee has made very clear, we do consider it a priority.
And what the message I took from the last time Kristen and Andrew were with you is that they need to come frequently. So I am planning on that, and maybe we keep the conversation going as we get a little bit of the year going and come back to this. I think it's a valuable discussion to have for sure.
And what I'm thinking more, the role that I had in mind is more of an informative role as a member of the community, and also from the school committee. I hesitate to use this word, but it's the concept of a sense of direction and oversight and brainstorming also. Really, my focus is this conversation of what's happening in our community, and raising awareness to things that I noticed are missing, as I mentioned in my comment when we had Kristen and Andrew last time. And in terms of time, yes, we can delay it, and we can also start it with informally, without adding too much pressure on our staff, but at least get that conversation going without any, again, added pressure or time requirement.
Are you propose? So there's two ways we can go, and either we would set up a subcommittee of the school committee, or we would have Lori have her own committee. And that's the problem, because it probably is much more appropriate to have Lori, Dr. Hunter, set it up as one of her committees. And that does require a significant amount of work on her part to do it properly, you know?
And I think right now this is such a critical issue, and I think I personally would welcome having more participation, like we had, more presentations like we had the other day before the whole school committee, and giving everybody an opportunity to hear, rather than, I think at some point when we feel we've moved to a point where people are more comfortable with where we are, that we can have sort of an oversight role of, in some way, that we make sure that things are continuing. But I think at this point where there's a ramping up, and there's just, it's, I would personally welcome having a larger group participation like we had with the presentation back in August.
And I think that does align with what Lori said too, that's available to us right now. Instead of, what I'm hearing is, instead of creating a new body to link up other initiatives and other people, rather Lori continues to bring school-based efforts closer to the entire school committee for the present time.
And I think, you know, you've talked on this too, that bringing it right to all of you also gives it a really public transparency and opportunity for input. When I run a committee, it's a representative of that, right? Because it's not televised and open meeting law and all of that, where I think right now it should be here, where everyone's got availability to hear what the work is.
So I know we want to be clear on where we are, and know we have to come back to this. Would it be satisfactory in your mind, Lori, and Fatima, more importantly, in yours, that we might expect another report with school committee and dialogue with Andrew and Kristen and perhaps others as early as sometime in October? Or is that premature?
I think that's comfortable for both Kristen and Andrew. And I don't know if they've had much happened between their previous presentation and the next, because they are working with staff and staff is just returning. So I don't know if it's going to be too short of a time span for them, but as much exposure as we can get to the work, I think would be welcome. What I would like is to at least informally be part of that conversation behind the scene, because this is when we are planning. We are talking, we're setting goals, we're discussing what needs to be worked on, what needs to, again, drawn attention to. So yes, when we are going to have another presentation is when there is enough material to present. It doesn't have to be October, but certainly I'm open to it.
I'll share with you what I've said to Lori, and that is that I believe if we manage our time properly and respect the time of others properly, that it would be very valuable to have even 10 or 15 minutes of dialogue on occasion with key people doing essential things like Kristen and Andrew, who are leading the social competency initiative, as are the principals and a few others. What I'm trying to say is I don't want folks spending too much time on presentations per se for us for the sake of presentation. I think brief and meaningful dialogue can also move us in the direction that Fatima, I think you're endorsing and promoting here.
Yes, I think what I associate, sorry, very quickly, what I associate with presentation is I see myself as a spectator, and I would like to not be a spectator. So I'm looking forward to be a part of it. So that's
Exactly.
what
Yeah. So I think that's up to the chairs to hear that message and work with Lori to see that it's not a passive spectator role, but rather that we have some exchange with people who are on the ground doing some of the curriculum development and implementation around social competency objectives.
I think that's the keyword. Exchange is the keyword. I think that sums it all up. Exchange.
So I'm going to ask that, Lori, we have you keep in mind what might be possible over the next 6 or 7 weeks to keep us current.
Can I also just jump in here with, to echo something Fatima said actually about what's realistic in terms of when there's actually something new. I want to make sure that we're not creating a situation where we are asking people to come back so regularly that they're having to come up with, content that would be like a presentation every time. I mean, I think what's important here is the exchange and the input. And I think it's very important that we're all involved. To your point, Sarah, this is something that we're all very interested in. So I wouldn't want to make one person the lead or liaison, because it's something that I think we all want to be engaged in. And I just think we want to make sure that's on the appropriate time frame. So when Andrew and Kristen and Lori and whoever's working on it are at a point when it makes sense to bring something to us for discussion, I think we should do that, and we should all be involved in that exchange and discussion. I just want to make sure that we're not trying to put dates on the calendar that don't make sense within that process.
Agreed.
And so what I think I'm hearing is probably a conversation sooner than later. So you're part of the building of the goals for the year, which we have sketched out, obviously. But before we're way down the implementation path, and I will talk with them to see what the reasonable time frame for that is. It may be October if that's the goal, so that they can get some feedback as they're building. Otherwise, we wouldn't want to miss that opportunity.
Right.
We're almost in the middle of September. We started school late. We have so much working. So say October, Lori, if it's November,
The blink.
Yeah.
that's fine. It's
October's only 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things that are going to happen between now and November, October, and so.
But I hear the request.
And the thing I think that we should do, just as a note, I think it should be on our school committee goals for the year.
Oh,
And
Totally agree.
it's our responsibility to try to shape what we think we should be doing as a school committee, not just hearing what you think you should be doing. So,
Yep, absolutely.
all right, thank you.
Just another comment back on it as we're kind of wrapping up the full list here. There's one other thing that we have to think about in terms of responsibilities that's going to be big this year, and that's negotiating. We're going to have a lot of contracts to negotiate. So although this isn't on our list because it's not official actual liaison or subcommittee roles, we're going to have multiple different contracts to do. Both teachers' contracts will come up again since we just did 1-year renewals, and several other groups will also have contracts coming up. So we don't need to specify all of those tonight, but I just want those to be on the radar as we think about the various.
Approximately when would that work begin?
Probably January, although.
Next
To your
week?
point, it's almost October, and we're just
Okay.
wrapping up. The 1-year contracts are just getting wrapped up. We did start mid-year last year with the CCTA, which I still think was smart. I don't know if January would be exactly it, but I'd say by February, no later than March, we'd want to get going.
But not this calendar year.
No, no.
I was going to say the same. For teacher contracts, I think trying for January so that we're not frantic about it would make sense. And to Heather's point, we should bear this in mind because this is another example of where 2 members of the body of 7 will be spending extra time on behalf of all of us.
And it doesn't have to be the same 2 people for all of them.
No,
So,
no.
you know, the teachers' contracts will probably necessitate, well, maybe not, maybe they'll be quick and easy, but they typically necessitate more time and just attention to detail and expertise. And some of the other ones can often be relatively quick. So again, each one's different, and we can have different people do different contracts so that a few different people can get experience, if that makes sense.
There were 2 others that were on our list from a year ago, and these are both superintendent committees that had a member participate. One was the Superintendent's Sustainability Committee, and another one was the Superintendent's Safety Committee. So I don't know if you
I
want
can
to speak to those.
I didn't forget. I decided right now those need to be in hiatus, just given the scope of work going on with COVID-related procedures. And I'll be honest to say, some of the COVID safety measures are making some of those goals really hard to accomplish. So I don't know that the timing's right now. I think we should revisit it as the year goes on, but I'd say they're on hiatus for the time being.
Fine, and those are yours, so you'll let us know when they get ramped up.
I will.
Okay.
And Court, there's one other, the calendar committee.
Oh dear, that was
Oh.
not even on our list. Yeah, thank
And
you.
we're meeting again this week, so.
And
That's
that typically, Cynthia has 1 member, am I correct?
Yep.
Well, and should be a regional member? Well, we're all,
Yeah.
All are, yeah.
it should be a Concord member, so it's a regional member.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's
Okay.
joint. Yeah.
What happens to Carlisle? Those that we don't have a person from Carlisle.
On the calendar committee?
Yeah, how does it impact them? I'm just
Well,
wondering.
the thinking, what I was suggesting was if you have a Concord member, then you have a Concord Carlisle member. So even though they originated from Concord, they are technically a representative of the region. They are serving the interests of the region, and they are therefore a representative for Carlisle as well.
Is
Correct.
there a reason why we cannot have one of each?
Well, if we've got enough people to,
I remember there was a huge difference a couple of years ago in approach and philosophy, and we had 2 different calendars. One Concord for calendar for Concord, and a different calendar for the region. That's what came to mind, and I'm wondering whether.
Fatima, just to put your mind a little at ease, we always have discussions about the proposal at the school committee meeting. So we don't just decide the calendar. We present a calendar to the full committee, and we have a discussion.
Okay.
And the calendars have come more in alignment in the past few years. The break was really, the starts were very different before, or, you know, different enough.
Carlisle is okay.
But the mindset has sort of become more, I think, more aligned. Not, I mean, not for this September, but generally, what we would have had would have been aligned.
And what you're referring to, Fatima, when Concord and the region had different dates, was more a result of a large debate over holidays. And that we've basically come together on. And so with one person on the calendar committee, that person, as a member of both committees, is also charged with ensuring that they're bringing to the full school committee a calendar that is consistent for both districts.
Thank you.
Sure. So just a question on that, Lori, since you said that they're meeting this week, do we need to appoint? Cynthia has been our representative on that so far. Should we just establish, Cynthia, you'll stay on it until we change, if we change, you know, if you step off for some reason?
We're now finishing up the calendar for this year.
Right.
We're not delving into next year's calendar, so we might propose that we, you know, when we put this one to bed, fine, so at some point,
Right.
that we start planning for FY22.
That would be the time to swap membership.
Yes.
Yes. Right? Does that sound?
Yes.
Okay.
And Cynthia's been part of the discussion that started, gosh, 9 months ago about this year's calendar. I think her continuing for the 2021 year would be very valuable. And then if you want to appoint someone else for 21, 22, that would make sense. Or she's enjoying it so much, she stays on. I don't know.
I'll hope.
Yes,
It doesn't usually turn into an all-year activity. Usually
Yeah.
it's a couple meetings and we're done.
It's usually one of those, this is an easy assignment type.
Yeah.
It's everybody
Not-
counting their days on the calendar. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
no, it's 18. No, it's 16. Yeah.
Right.
All right.
I also want to bring up one other that we don't have on this list, and I'll state my opinion. I think we don't need to now. That's the budget subcommittee that we've had for several years now. Sorry, that's my background, but I can't mute myself. Maybe quiet. Sorry.
We have a volunteer.
I know, exactly. Okay, she'll take care of the budget. So, and I'll give a little context around this, because I was one of the people who actually a few years ago was saying adamantly that we need a budget subcommittee. The context to that is that at that point, I think we were coming off of many years of some frustrations in communications between the community, including the finance committee and the school community and the school committee and the budget process. There were a lot of questions and really requests for more transparency. The budget subcommittee was a way to both help create some, in theory at that point, we were looking for more transparency into the process and also into the transfers that had in the management of the budget throughout the year. Since Jared has started and completely revamped our budget processes, they are incredibly transparent. The numbers that come to us, the school committee, are so clear and informative. And then the process throughout the year of managing the budget and what transfers happen and everything is incredibly transparent and informative. And because of that, I feel that we don't need a budget subcommittee anymore. So I just wanted to put it out there so that we're not just ignoring it, but stating a point. And she's done contributing now.
Yeah, I share that opinion, Heather, and I think if Lori wants to bounce ideas off one or two members before she and Jared bring budget ideas or concepts or solutions to the entire committee, she's got the chairs and the vice chairs meeting with her occasionally anyway.
Yes, I was going to add that. In fact, in terms of the process, that's been very effective many years over, is that Lori and Jared can speak to both chairs as they're creating it for that interim feedback before it comes to the whole committee. So I would say that we return to that as our default process, and that we don't need a budget subcommittee. As Laurie said before, we don't need to create meetings just to try to fill them.
And I think this coming fiscal year, given how many unknowns are sitting in front of us as we start to build this, I think there's going to need to be an early conversation with the whole committee just on a strategy discussion. Jared and I have started to bounce that around. I'd like to do that probably fairly soon before we even get too far into the building, because there's a lot of variables here that we're not used to dealing with. So
You mean a strategy for budget formation for FY22?
yeah, given that, you know,
Okay.
we don't know what's happening tomorrow, how do we
Right.
build for a year out?
I understand. Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So with that, our process could be that we check in with each member and do a round, and then do a second round and see if we can get some tentative agreements on how we share these responsibilities and time commitments. Or we can do it committee by committee and hear from people who respond as we go through the committee. You want to go people to committees or committees to people? How do you want to
I
talk
think
about it?
less people than committees. I think it might be practical to go with people
Okay.
first, but that's.
And
So,
say one thing.
Then we can know where the holes are and where the, you know,
mhm.
where the strong feelings are.
So outside of the middle school building committee, there are a couple committees that have us in their charge. So you must have a liaison, a member assigned to the committee, and that's a financial audit, the capital planning task force, and the PEG access advisory.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I would also say if we don't have specific assignments to those tonight, we could probably continue with whoever was on last year, at least temporarily continue until we
Mhm.
swap next meeting.
Okay. And we are absent one member.
We are.
That'll complicate things, but
Yeah. What if we just, I think this is what you meant by person, Fatima, but if anybody who has interest areas could just throw out, here are the 3 or 4 that I'm interested in, and we can start to put down what names are interested in what ones, and we might have 3 names on the same one and none on another, and then we can start to see, like you said, where our gaps are and shift. But why don't we just, would that work if we go through and everybody can kind of throw out their interest areas?
Yes, I
Sure.
think expressing our interest at this point, and then we could finalize down the road. I think that would be a good start.
okay. So hearing that, why don't we let my screen determine who weighs in? Cynthia, can you share with us ones that you might be willing to represent us on?
So sure, I'm currently on the capital planning task force. I'm happy to continue. I think we have a meeting this week. And I'm also interested in a FinCom observer. And I think select board is weekly right now, so it's a pretty heavy lift. We might want to think of 2 people there or something. I don't know.
For what, Cynthia?
Huh?
For what did you say?
Select board is weekly,
Yeah, yeah.
Concord Select Board.
so.
Carlisle Select Board is Tuesday, is it not, Sarah?
Carlisle Select Board is Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Cynthia, I'm hearing capital planning and the FinCom.
Right.
Okay. I'm still waiting.
So I was interested in the Climate Action Advisory Board. I think they meet Wednesdays.
I believe so, yeah.
Thursdays.
I think we just got a notice on that today, yeah.
And does anybody know when the Board of Health typically meets? Let me go look.
I don't know why I think they're Thursday, don't quote me.
But I think,
Yes, I think that's right, because we end up having conflicts with FinCom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, I don't think we've had an actual liaison to the Board of Health and, not that it's not much more relevant this year, I'm just,
That's what I was thinking. I don't think we have.
I don't think we have yet.
Agreed, agreed.
Okay,
was some-
maybe that's why, although this year it could certainly make more sense.
It came up, yeah, it came up on one of our lists as a to be discussed, not as a
Yeah.
must.
Yeah,
Yeah. I agree, but I just think it's,
So we may do a few rounds here. Sarah, could you weigh in with ideas about what you might take on, please?
I mean, Eva and I will split up the BOS and FinCom. And then I would be open to policy, but not wedded to it. I'd be open to EDCO, because also Carlisle does participate in EDCO.
Mhm.
So that would probably be the best one for me, I think.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. So let's say one of the Carlisle BOS, or probably, yeah, either the select board or the FinCom, and then an EDCO.
and I'll just say that as chair of the region, you would be expected at the FinCom meetings in Concord where we're presenting the regional budget.
When they're presenting the region.
Yes.
Yeah, no, okay.
right. So that's a few meetings, it's not
Right,
lots.
yeah, not regularly, yeah.
Yeah.
It can feel regular at certain parts of the year.
I was,
We enjoy our time with them, but we do spend a lot of time with them.
Yes.
so,
Heather, can we turn to you?
Sure. Well, there are a few things that I'm, I guess, more interested in. I will say at the beginning that I'm happy to some extent to sit back and let everybody else get experience where they want to,
Okay.
because I think that's most important here, given that I'm in my last
Got it.
year, and other people probably want to ramp up on things. So I'll throw out some, but I'm also happy to sit back and kind of fill in wherever I'm needed.
So shall you and I sit back for a moment then?
Sure.
All right. Fatima, could we turn to you, please?
Yes, thank you. I will give you the ones that I put 2 check marks next to, and then the ones with 1 check mark. So the ones with 2 check marks is the policy subcommittee that I'm interested in, the CMS building committee. When that, I know right now things are in hiatus, but it doesn't have to be this year, it could be next year. And also the sustainability committee. And I think that, I mean, I'm linking that with the climate action also. I could do both. What was the other one? That calendar I'm interested in, but then again, it does not have to be immediate. The League of Women Voters, if needed. And lastly, safety committee.
Okay.
So the last 2 have only 1 check mark for me.
So I'm going to note that the middle school is a select board appointment, and we have our reps for this year. Sustainability and safety, Lori has put on hold for the present time, but that still leaves a lot potentially on your plate by way of policy, climate action calendar, and league, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think right now, just to be clear, people right now are able to express the ones they're interested in without committing to all of them. That they're
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Alexa.
All right, so my primary interest would definitely be on the policy subcommittee. I am fully willing to split observation of the select board, just as a Concord diehard. I'm comfortable with that. The Recreation Commission is also something I'd be willing to get involved with, as well as anything going on particularly this year, if there needs to be support with the Board of Health. What else did I, yeah,
Okay,
Those would be my top choices for this year.
excellent. Okay. Heather, we come back to you.
Sure. Yeah, so obviously I've been on the building committee and I'm happy to continue on that as long as needed. I've been involved with it a long time, so would like to see that through. I've been involved with the league for a while. I'm happy to continue on the education committee there, but also happy to kind of tag team it with someone else so that someone else can kind of start to build that relationship. In fact, I think that would be a good idea for somebody else to get involved with
That was another thing I would have been interested in. I've done some stuff with them in the past.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I could, tag team that with someone so that, someone can get to know it and learn it and everything. Yeah, I've been on EDCO and I'm happy to either continue or leave it. It sounds like, Sarah, that might make more sense for you. I was going to say I could get involved with policy if needed, but it sounds like we have others and I'm more than happy to leave that for others. I can pick up something else too, and I'm happy to go do some negotiating, which at least in the second half of the year will be a bit of a time commitment too. So I can do others, but again, I can fill in wherever I'm needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm serving as a new member on the Concord Audit Committee. I'd be willing to continue with that. I could on the Concord Select Board on Mondays. If I'm correct, Alexa, you said you could
Yeah.
also.
I'll do that.
And I've enjoyed my work on policy, but I think if we have 3 members active there, I'd be happy to pull away from that.
Do we have?
I see that nobody is heading into the PEG Access Advisory Committee. I'd be willing to do that. I told Wally I'd cover for this month anyway, and I've done it before in previous years.
That'd be great.
But I'd happily yield on that. So just to pause for a minute, what is vacant? Adult and community education. Nobody's voiced interest in that yet. EDCO, we have people. FinCom, yes. Select Board, yes. Carlisle, Board of Select and FinCom, yes. PEG now, yes. Policy, I believe we have potentially 3. Financial audit, yes. League, yes. We didn't hear CPAC.
No.
And Eva's just come on.
Yes. Hi. Sorry, I was traveling in no cell zone. I'm interested in continuing on a CPAC for the region.
Excellent. Okay. Are there others that you were interested in serving on, Eva?
If there is no takers, if community has to be covered, then I'll cover that. I will be at the high school, so I can always check in on their meetings.
Which one again? Forgive me, I didn't get it.
Adult and community.
Oh, adult and community ed. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's perfect.
Got it. Okay, good. Thank you. Building committee, sustainability, not now. Safety, not now. Budget subcommittee, moot. We're all doing that. RecCom is one that Alexa might offer herself to as a link. Whether or not that means attending every meeting is something else again. Liaise doesn't mean you attend every single meeting of every single committee necessarily. For some of the groups, yes, but for some of the groups, it means that you're an arm's length away anytime they want to talk. And then we had calendar committee, and if I'm correct, we have Cynthia now and Fatima expressing interest in the future when a need becomes evident. Help me out, folks. Have I covered all of them?
We need a Concord rep for CPAC. I feel strongly about that.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
I was
you.
just going to say that too.
Cynthia, is that something, can
It's
you
just-
make any more time in your life?
It's the FinCom conflict. So
Oh,
the
okay.
meetings are, CPAC is meeting in the morning now.
When is that? I would do it.
It's either, in regular times, it was at night at 7. But
Okay.
now they're meeting at 9, usually in the morning.
What days?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's first Thursday of every month, if I'm not mistaken.
They've been meeting at noon.
Yeah,
Noon. Okay, sorry. It wasn't at 7.
that's
Would
right.
that work for you, Alexa?
Noon on what's the date?
Thursday, the first.
Thursdays at noon.
Uh-huh.
And then that would put me in the select board on Mondays at night.
And
Yeah,
You and I can split that.
yeah, I think that's fine. I can do it.
So
Okay.
I don't think they've been recording the CPAC meeting. So most of these other meetings you can now watch, not necessarily live. You can watch them virtually at a later time, which isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. But I think CPAC does not record their meetings.
No,
or I
no,
haven't seen
that's fine. That's a total non-conflict for me.
that'd be
Yes,
great.
they don't record.
So if we find that a group or committee changes their meeting date and it thus becomes impossible for the person who took it on to actually do it, we simply come back to the committee and solve it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Court, there are a couple others that I circled here. I'm not sure if we figured out. One is, we both said it seemed like there were a lot of people on policy, but I only actually wrote down 2 names. I wrote down Sarah and Fatima.
I wrote down
I would do
Fatima
it.
and Alexa.
Sorry?
I wrote down Fatima and Alexa.
Oh, for policy?
I wrote down Sarah, Fatima, and Alexa.
She's going to be a very effective chair, I can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice try, Sarah.
I just went, oh, okay. Okay, well done.
No, but it was Alexa. Alexa was missing from
From my list, got it. Okay, we have 3 there. And then on one of the additions that was suggested was Concord Transportation Committee.
That's
Now,
a,
I'm
that's a
also just gonna
committee.
ask, sorry, Cynthia, that was your suggestion? I don't think we've had a liaison in the past.
It's a brand new committee.
That's why.
Yes.
I
think we should just pay attention because really, I don't think even the committee is really sure what their work will be, but I don't know how much I hear it will have a school transportation component to it, but I don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I think, again, it might just be watching a couple of their new meetings to see what's going on, maybe communicating with the chair who has, we don't even know who that is yet. So, but I do know a person that we might know who's on the committee, who's Wally Johnston. So,
Oh, look at that.
And is
Well, count me out then.
Is John Arena active as well, Lori? Or is he going to?
No, the committee hasn't, as far as I recall, and I haven't talked with anyone at the town level about this since before we closed, honestly. So I don't think we got that far as to
Okay.
what the school representation would be.
right.
That's
So,
something that I would be interested in if it does become a possibility or a necessity. I would be interested in.
So that's kind of something that anybody who's interested sort of just needs to either watch them or contact Wally or sort of try to pay attention to what's going on.
all right, so that'll suffice until we know more.
I don't-
Shona?
I don't think we need one for the Carlisle RecCom. The Carlisle School District has one for our Carlisle RecCom, but only because they use our facilities. But there's nothing that overlaps that impacts regional from the Carlisle RecCom from what I know.
Thank you. And if I'm correct, Alexa, you'll make some kind of overture to Concord Rec, just to, even if you're not a meeting attendee, to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
good with that. I have a question. When these sort of positions become official, is the onus on us to reach out to them, like, just like as a matter of making it happen? Or do they find us? Do I get do we get contacts?
I think it's going to be each one of us reaches out to the chair.
Of whatever, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And if you need contact information, reach out to the rest of us who can.
Great.
One of us, either chairs or me or Lori or
I
someone,
may, okay.
help you
Awesome.
connect.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
So let me see if I have what we think we know so far.
Okay.
Going back to the list now, Adult and Community Ed, we're hearing Eva, Edco, Sarah, Concord, FinCom, Cynthia, and I just think just you officially, Cynthia, if I'm correct. Concord Select.
Hold on, before we keep going, I just want to throw out there quickly, although I know Alexa and Fatima have taken on a lot. It might make sense for those who have not been involved with the Concord FinCom at all to just go to some meetings, watch when possible. I would have suggested maybe somebody tag team it with Cynthia, although I see your names a lot of other places, Alexa and Fatima, so I don't want to throw another one on you, but I think it's really important. One of our biggest roles here is collaborating with the finance committee and communicating with them. And if you haven't interacted with them at all before, it's just, you know, it's a unique process, this whole budgeting process. So
And that's Thursdays, right?
what?
Those are
Yes.
Thursdays.
Those are Thursdays. So just at some point, whether you can go or watch some recordings later or you know, communicate with Cynthia, but I just wanted to throw out there for newcomers to the school committee, it's really important to get to know the finance committee a little.
I agree with you.
Yeah, you're not overstating that at all. That's very true. That's so Heather, your message, that's for all of us.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I'm
It's
happy.
appropriate just to bomb in there.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah, got it.
yeah, public like these, anybody can observe.
Great.
So observe anytime.
Okay.
They'd be happy to see school committee members watching so that they know that we are engaged in how they're operating.
Okay, great.
Or as Cynthia said, watch the video if
And
you
watch
want
the
to do
video.
it.
Yeah, that's
asynchronously.
fine too. Then you can do it on your own time if Thursday nights don't work.
I like the 1.5 speed myself.
That's okay. Can we do that for these meetings live? Like, okay, everybody talk at 1.5 speed.
I think the one thing I'd add there is that, especially for new members, when we are actually on the FinCom agenda, I really can't stress enough how important it would be for you to be there and listen to how those meetings go. It's part of why we're so successful, but it's also something you need to be present for firsthand, I think, so you'll be able to prepare for it in coming cycles.
Yep.
So those dates aren't all firmed up yet, but they're going to come. We got to work with them on when those dates are. They're coming up though for the beginning part of the discussion.
Yep.
Is there a way to get on like their distribution list of like, so that they would send an agenda, or is just to go?
They
look?
don't, as far as I know, they don't have a list
Got
that
it.
pushes out, but you can always look for it 48 hours before their meetings, just like all public meetings for sure.
I think on the town's website, you can sign up.
No, I know that. I just didn't know if it was like to remind me.
We can talk offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should note here that Thursday nights are typically my teaching night, and thus I do watch the meetings, but I usually watch them after the fact unless I can do some careful scheduling to attend. PEG advisory, I'll take that on if that works.
And Court, just a note, I know you know, but the select board needs to appoint you.
Well, I forgot. Okay, so thank you. All right. With that, let me pause and ask this question. I should know policy procedure, but I don't. Some of these are simply by agreement among ourselves, but with something like that, I'm guessing we would want a formal vote where we send forth a member to the select board as a recommendation. Would that be accurate?
Yes, which we usually do. And in fact, that list of kind of official voting and nominating is usually on our agenda as a vote. Tonight, we put it on as a review since we haven't had a chance to go through this with everybody. So I imagined at least that in our next meeting, we will officially vote to appoint all of these roles.
So if we vote the entire slate next week, then the ones that actually technically require to vote have it.
Right.
Yeah, good, thank you. Policy, Alexa, Fatima, and Sarah.
Yeah, and so when I had gone, I'd said I could either do policy or EDCO. I
Oh,
can do policy, but I'm also doing Carlisle FinCom. I'm doing the
Yeah,
Concord
okay.
FinCom and the chair's breakfast.
And you're chairing the region.
And
And you're chairing the region.
No job.
So it
which is-
wasn't an oversight not including myself. in it.
Got it.
So then there were a few other people who were interested in it.
Yeah.
So anybody,
We could, I mean, Court, I would put the question to you because if you are still interested and have the bandwidth, there's value to having your insight there and the continuity because you're involved this year. That said, again, that's easy for me to say because you're chairing a committee now and have a lot of other options. So,
and what we did in Carlisle was we kind of picked two people who were always there and then have a third person. If there was, depending on what policies were being reviewed, different members would step up to be that third person.
Okay.
because we've got the entire committee scrutinizing everything they do anyway.
Yeah.
And those are Thursday mornings.
They don't have to be.
they can be anytime, really. That's just a subcommittee. And then we also, one of those people has to be chair of the policy subcommittee.
Correct.
So we can think about that one if you want. It could be rotating, although I think there's some value to having
Consistent, yeah.
a chair, certainly a consistent chair, and also some consistent membership. And Court, you can think about it. Like I said, I think
I'm okay with it, and I like what Sarah said, and that is that as long as we have a quorum of 2 there and they're ready to conduct business. But I'll certainly start out with it. But just note that means we don't have a Carlisle member.
I was just going to say, hold on. I don't think we can have 3 Concord members because then we have a quorum of the Concord School Committee.
Correct.
And more importantly, you don't have a regional.
And we don't have a region. Yeah, we don't have a Carlisle member.
Yeah, so if Sarah is her time is spent in other areas, then I can do the policy.
Okay, that would be great, Eva.
So you're,
And that's you said Thursday morning, right?
I think we want to look at calendars once you determine who it will be. It doesn't have to be Thursday morning. I've been actually maybe hoping to switch that. So I think it's up for, once we know who it is, we can set the time.
Okay.
All right, so at the present time, we're looking at Eva, Alexa, and Fatima. Financial audit, my name's next to that at the present time. League, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not sure how we're going to distribute out league because they've got their ed committee, but they've got other committees as well. We have Heather, Alexa, Fatima, and Cynthia's already active in that space also. So
I don't need to do that if it's,
Wait, sorry, we had 4
League.
people. That's the league?
yeah,
So their meetings are during the day, so I don't usually attend. But
okay.
anybody can attend if they're a league member, but
Right.
but we don't want to have 3 with 3 Concord members there, honestly.
No.
No,
So I think we should have, my personal opinion, we should have Heather as the formal liaison. And if others on the school committee want to attend, just sort of sync up with Heather to be sure we don't have 3 people there.
that's what I did this year. I tried to attend, but would sit in the audience.
And just so we don't sit together and if we just observe,
Deliberate.
yeah.
and we can all, if there's something happening, then multiple people wanted to be at, as long as there's no deliberation, it's okay to.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so if it's Alexa and Fatima, if you're both interested, we'll just coordinate and, either or both can be involved.
For CPAC, it was Eva and
Alexa.
Alexa.
What was that? Oh, yeah. CPAC.
CPAC,
Got it.
okay. We think that might be Thursdays, midday. CMS building is Heather and Court at the present time. The capital planning is Cynthia.
Mhm.
Peg, we already mentioned. Calendar is Cynthia to be followed by Fatima at some point, if I'm correct. That's what we heard.
Yep.
And we aren't going to be official about appointing rec or health, but we know that we're going to at least connect up with those two Concord commissions.
I am working very closely with both of those directors right now, so I think it's, you're connected in that way at least.
Right, yeah.
And I think I'd say the same about EDCO, given how much you're getting stretched, which is I think why we always land this way on EDCO. As a voting board member, I'm always there, so I can continue to bring things back to you if you want to leave it more of that informal role rather than someone having to be present at another set of meetings.
I got it. Okay, thank you. And then we have many other concerns, many other goals, many other interests. I'm not sure they would result in us taking on formal liaison roles tonight. But we know that we mentioned transportation, and that one is sort of a pending. Climate action. I suspect they would be happy to have a rep.
I attended most of their meetings, except for like there was always conflicts during COVID for some reason or another, because everybody's doing their meetings at different times. So, but I recommend again, I check the agendas. I think it's an interesting committee, and it's a very large goal for Concord, the Concord goals. So they're coming quickly, the 2025 goals.
True. Okay, and then back to Heather's comment that no small amount of time will be required for negotiations with various bargaining units. Does memory serve me correctly? That's a chair appointment?
Question, Court. I thought
I think the whole committee,
did it.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
vote.
typically we've voted to appoint someone.
Got it. Okay, but it came from the chair, I remember. At least the recommendation came from the chair.
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it. Okay,
And
so,
because that relates to bargaining, I think we might even have chosen or voted that in executive session
okay.
in
So
terms
we
of
can-
who's representing for bargaining.
We can revisit that when we have to. Thankfully, we don't have to tonight.
Right, yeah.
So is it clear enough to everybody what we think is going to show up on a list very soon for us to peruse and then vote into being next week?
Yeah. Are you gonna, Court, would you do us the favor of sending out what you just went through so everybody can kind of look at it and make sure we're looking at the same list?
Yeah, provided that Aaron checks it, yes. Yes, I'll be
Well,
happy.
and then
to.
we're going to clean it up so all the dormant ones don't show anymore. We're going
Right.
to tidy it all up.
Correct. Good. Thank you. All right. Good work.
Can I just throw in, since we did talk about that long-term goal of doing something with the initiative of the cultural competency, could that be, can we include some kind of wording about that, just so we can continue the conversation in the same list?
Well, right now, I don't think we can put it on the list because we don't have a group to link it to. So what we do have formally in the minutes is the expectation put to Dr. Hunter that there's going to be not a presentation per se, but rather an ongoing dialogue with people at the implementation level within the school district, with the school committee, with even the desire on the part of several of us to have this sooner, not later, maybe as early as October. But there is a big caveat to that, and that is that the smooth functioning of the schools comes first. And if Lori, if your folks can't pull that off, you just tell us that.
We're on day 5, so I can't answer it quite yet.
I know,
think we'll
yeah.
know more.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my point is, we're not asking you for formal commitments and formal dates now. I think this committee has expressed that this is a high priority item. We don't have a definition for where and how the school committee is going to get involved, but you're going to help us create that sooner, not later.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there's a lot of energy out among teachers. There's things happening. So we could even have a great dialogue about what is growing, out from actually the most important place, right? Which is the classroom.
And I will share, Fatima, this is an area where I'm getting individual questions and comments from the community that have not gone through the school committee, but are simply coming to me directly on the street, personal emails. There's a great deal of interest in what the school is doing, how it's doing it, what it's supposed to yield in the way of cultural competency results for our kids and our families. So I'm sure you also are hearing interest in this. So by having Lori help us with the exchange, as we refer to it, that gives us more information and thus more confidence about knowing what's going on, is going to help us with our constituent relations with members of the community. And that is, we all know, our responsibility. So Lori, thank you for keeping that high on the agenda, notwithstanding the urgency of getting schools functioning every morning.
Yes, thank you.
So at this point, if we're satisfied with our commitments for the rest of the year, I would say plan your meal time and sleep time accordingly, because you just lost a lot of it. Here we go, everybody. We can turn to the next item, which is the reading of the minutes. We have all received the minutes. They've been reviewed, but we can dive into any of these that require attention. Is there a motion for approval for minutes of the joint meeting of July 30th, 2020?
So moved for both.
And Sarah should be doing this. Apologies, Sarah. I just stepped on your role here.
I'll second for both.
Sarah, roll call.
Discussion? No, okay, roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye.
for both, for both. Booth,
Aye for both.
Bout,
Aye for both committees.
Mesdad,
Aye for both.
Mustufi,
Aye for region.
Rainey,
Aye for both.
Wilson, I for region. Okay,
And these exec, I think, were joint as well, Sarah.
so we've done all of them now.
So we now need a motion for approval of the executive session minutes for May 26th, June 2nd, June 9th, June 16th, June 30th, and July 13th, 2020 in all cases. I'd be happy to move that. Is there a second?
Your second,
Second for both.
Sarah?
discussion? Roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye for both.
Booth,
Aye for both.
Bout,
Aye for both.
Mesdad,
Aye for both.
Mustufi,
Aye for region.
Rainey,
Aye for both.
Wilson, I for region. Okay. We have chairs and liaisons reports. Do we have any?
I would mention here that the high school's Kick for Cancer effort is now well underway. And I'm not sure where people can get information on that, but it's going to be largely a virtual effort. And I don't think we can say enough by way of positives for what the teacher leaders and students are doing on behalf of the Kicks for Cancer and the related Mighty Moose. Am I correct, Heather?
Yes, I was going to say, and on the same note, the Mighty Moose is also happening virtually. You can register and donate, and fundraising is on its way. Everybody get involved. Still great events, even if we can't all be together to run them.
And I'll report that Concord did complete their long anticipated town meeting. And I believe that the school-related warrant articles pretty much passed without even a discussion at all.
I did not speak at all, which was a very strange feeling, but not a single question.
Well, I think it wasn't simply because of the COVID modifications, but rather I like to believe, and I think it's true, that people know that we had a very thorough hearing process and a very thorough development process prior to that. And then we were ready to revisit things when the FinCom wanted us to revisit. And I think that gave the citizenry a lot of faith in the numbers that Jared and Lori brought our way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, Court. Yeah. Yep. And just a huge shout out. We all know when things look like they're running easy, the way that looked like it ran easy, we know it's because of the enormous amount of work that went into it.
Yes.
And kudos to the entire town leadership that managed to make that happen. So.
Yes, notably
Yeah.
the moderator and her entire team. Yeah. Let's see, we've already mentioned the middle school. Lori mentioned that end of October or by November 1, we hope to be underway again.
And I'd like to also thank the town for supporting the stabilization fund for a middle school at the town meeting. That also went through without a question. And I really appreciated it because of the fact that it just shows that the town understands and knows that we need to build a new building and we're working on it. And that show of support was wonderful.
$2 million is a good start.
Yes, it's a good start.
And the electric school bus article.
And that one too.
That was the result of extraordinary work by Brian Folds and others. I think they deserve the gratitude of the town for helping us to meet our sustainability goals in a big way. And doing it without threatening the direct educational program. That was their goal, was to see that we could do both, protect the core education program and move on non-polluting school buses. Correspondence. I think we don't have Wally among us, but Heather, I think you're prepared to speak to this.
Yes, I am. I've tracked it for the last couple of weeks. In fact, I'm going to go backwards a little bit, an extra week, only because last week on Thursday when we spoke, we did mention some of the correspondence because it was relative to our conversation about testing, but we didn't actually have official correspondence report. So I'm going to back up to that week. From the past meeting up until that one, we had, well, 4 actual emails, 3 of which expressed concerns about testing, COVID testing, but the 4th was a letter signed by, and this time I have the total, 139 parents and community members in favor of testing. So we went through all of that, but I just wanted to report what it actually was. And then since then, this week, we have had just one email with questions about reopening and support, and also, again, reiterating support for testing if we can figure out a way to do it at some point. One that was just a very nice thank you for launching and approving fall sports for the high school, and one that was, again, a question about logistics and masks at the high school. And that was it in the past week and a half.
Thank you. And for our newer members, typically, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, the chair will reply to emails that come to the entire committee with an acknowledgement that lets people know that we value citizen input and that we understand the message, unless we're seeking further clarification. But usually these are very clear communications that come our way. And those responses are copied to the entire committee, if I'm correct. Is that
Yes,
so?
exactly.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. And for your benefit, you and Sarah, it's typically that if the email comes to the Concord committee, the Concord chair responds. Likewise for the region. Sometimes, very often, they're joint. Often it's something that that relates to both districts. And in the past, the two chairs have always just kind of coordinated, who's answering this one, who's answering that one. And
Right. Okay.
just to make sure, which is important to do, to make sure that we do acknowledge and respond to every email.
Good. Okay. Thank you. With that then, Lori, we've got reports for discussion. Is it
Yeah,
coming
so I
your
brought a
way?
few slides. Yeah, I brought a few slides that'll hit highlights, and I actually went with a data mindset, which I thought was an interesting approach. Frankly, there's so much to share, it's almost hard to know where the starting point is. So I'll go through my slides, and I'm happy to take questions and hear what you want to talk more on. Given that absolutely everything is different, it might be that you ask me to bring back more details at further meetings. That would be completely understandable and expected. But I thought, given that we're 5 days in here, it was big picture we were talking about primarily. And so that's what I'm really focused on as a starting point. So just in terms of reminders of how we got here, this is what our actual school calendar has been up until today, or actually yesterday. Teachers returned on the 27th, and that was a combination of virtual and in person, depending on what we were offering and what their needs were in the buildings. And I can't say, I'm sorry, I keep clicking the wrong thing. I can't say enough about how that went. It was very smooth, and we met a great number of needs, probably more than we had it all mapped out, and it just came together in terms of safety versus cultural competency was in the mix, social emotion was in the mix, and it was just a really well-balanced number of days. Then obviously we started to work with the kids on the 8th in an all virtual environment. On the 9th, we brought back K through 5, so that's a week ago tomorrow. On the 10th, we added to that with Group A of middle and high school. And on the 11th, we rounded it out with Group B of middle and high school. And today, obviously, we are into the second rotation of those two groups. I will say that we're still processing that we could be walking today and have to remind ourselves Group B is only on their second in-person day of school. And just getting our own habits together on how that's working. K through 5, I'll just, for everyone's sake, remind you that it's a 12:30 or a little earlier dismissal because of transportation, and then a remote afternoon once the kids have returned home, or in some cases gone to Concord Rec or such. And I'll talk a little more on that in a minute. These are just completely anecdotal first impressions a few days in. The kids are really happy to be in the schools. Parents are very, very appreciative. I've said to a few people, we're getting firsthand contact with parents because there's so many of them driving that we're getting that feedback in a really, really direct way. And the teaching staff, I can't say enough of what I've seen, and I've been in schools every day, and that's my plan, to continue to be in schools every day. Having reinvented absolutely everything they're doing and trying to accomplish multiple things at once with kids at home and kids at school, and then it swaps, and you know, at the elementary they're with you in the morning and then they're not with you in the afternoon, and all of these variations. The teachers should feel really good about the starting point they found. It exceeded my expectations by far. I think I thought it was going to be a lot more chaotic. Am I saying it's perfect? Of course not. Nor would we expect that of them at this point. But it wasn't with great interruption. It accomplished the, you know, connection with kids in both places right from the beginning. Really, kudos to the work they put in to get to where they were as we opened up. All that hard work really showed. I know they're tired, and it's a lot to keep it all going, and that'll be something we have to keep talking about. And are there tweaks to be made? Absolutely, there are tweaks to be made, no question about that. But just to see our starting point be as solid as it was is just credit to the teaching staff and the commitment they put in to make this a successful rollout. So that, I could go on all day about that, but just some data then, which I thought was important I update you. So we have, and I need to, there doesn't seem to be a way to put this to paper without it needing some interpretation, so bear with me while I talk you through it. The half-day hybrid column is all of the elementary kids who are coming half-day and the kids that are attending in-person hybrid at secondary. We needed a column to put those all in one place. So it's the combination of those two groups. The remote kids are the 100% remote kids. You can see those numbers are up a little from where we were. I did put in a comment below. As of yesterday, we've had families of 7 students already requesting to come back in. And I just wanted to say to you very clearly our approach to that. They have signed off for the quarter or the trimester. However, DESE has made very clear to us as superintendents that if there's a means to bring kids back more quickly, we should be as fluid as possible. So we're trying to find the middle. The trick there is that in 2 of the 3 elementary schools, we have had to reconfigure teaching assignments. So there will be spots that it's not a quick, fluid process because there's no classroom with space available in it to just slide the child in. So our response right now has been that we will study our current scenario, and if we can do it quickly, we will. And if we can't, we may need the quarter to do it. So far, because it's kindergarten and the high school, we've been able to turn those around pretty fluidly. Again, it will depend on the spot where the child will need to be placed. So that's going to be an ongoing work in progress, and we'll just take it a day at a time and a family at a time. The full day column categorizes kids who are staying all day. So the Alcott numbers are up because it includes the Metco population that's staying with us because we can't get them home fast enough for the afternoon remote session. Everyone else that's in those numbers is special education in the specialized program. So Alcott's a combination of the 2, the others are all special education. And you can see our enrollment totals overall. We've had surveys come out from the state and MASS just inquiring if you've had massive or either broad-based changes in student enrollment or if there's been spots where the numbers are down because of COVID-related issues. And I have to say, we haven't seen that. Our enrollments are holding steady from where we were pre-COVID. And I feel like that's good news. We've actually had some parents approach us who have moved into town or, really seeking out the hybrid COVID option that fits their family best. And people have come here for what we've created. So it's been interesting to hear what's happening for families and why they're choosing, but our numbers are staying very, very steady.
Although the number at the high school looks high to me.
It's a big class. The freshman class is big, so it is high just because of that. did you comment on the remote number or the
No,
in-person?
the overall enrollment.
Yes, because we have high numbers in a couple of the grade levels, it is probably the highest enrollment we're going to see for a long time to come. Both, I think it's the 12th graders and the 9th graders have big classes. So we anticipated that. We knew the grade 9 numbers were up.
And I would assume they would be kind of, if we had 153 more kids at the school, that could be a problem, even with the hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, I think we erred on the side of caution because we had counted all the remote kids in the split.
Mm-hmm.
So they're factored into
Yeah.
the balancing act we did of the alphabet,
Yeah.
hoping to accommodate for that.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
I just reminding you, it just seems really important. We as a committee and administration stay very public with the data that's driving much of our decisions. So this is the health director's dashboard that she creates for us now at the end of every week. It gets posted on the main webpage of the school district, so we can all keep abreast. You can see actually the numbers have slightly improved in both communities. And these are just really critical numbers for us in terms of school remaining open. I know we've all shared question and concern over some of the stories out of other communities and we've been talking with families about the decisions a few, 50 kids make can impact this or preventatively impact it. In Dover, Sherburne, and LS. Those high schools are not opening because of parties. And there's no COVID involved. It's the worry of COVID that's closing them. There's actually not a case. So I think that's just been really eye-opening, and hopefully communication we've started with families and we will continue. These numbers are excellent, and we need them to stay this way. I know you've had questions on the symptom screener. I'm actually quite pleased and probably exceeding our expectations again here. The symptom screener is being very highly utilized, and we are already finding it enormously helpful, not just because it's helping identify symptoms and who should stay home, but it becomes a really strong communication tool for us at the schools. The nurses are working with the list of students. HR is working with me on the list of employees, because what it does become is the first step in the process of people following our protocols. And so we're highlighted immediately to where those needs are, cross-check them with the absence lists, and immediately engage with the employee or the family in terms of what comes next. And I think the symptom screener has been a really key piece to that, in addition to asking people to self-reflect every morning. So this I thought was important because I don't know that everyone realized we were going to be in this mode. I think we realized it, but maybe not in terms of the patterns that play out. We are in an ongoing process of people being COVID tested because of 3 reasons so far. One is they're symptomatic. One is they traveled out. The second is they've traveled out of state, or the third is they were a close contact and they're in quarantine for another case. We didn't break out the kids in these first 5 days. We're going to start doing that. So in 5 days, we've had 40 kids tested. So I think it's just important to realize there's just this ongoing flow. And I'm so grateful. The families have been incredibly supportive and cooperative, and they want to make this work. The staff is also in that same group. You can see the numbers broken out based on reasons. People are being tested. And again, high levels of cooperation and communication there. So in a way, we're building our own local dashboard here, as you can see.
Laura, you mentioned the great cooperation. Can you tell us how this data is being collected? Meaning, what are the source or sources?
Well, so when we know someone's reporting symptoms and they're not coming to school, which is happening through the screener and the absentee lists, we are immediately engaging with those families. The nurses are talking with the families. HR and I are working with the staff. We are insisting on receiving a negative COVID test from those people who are out prior to return. So these are data points that we are collecting directly with the people that are involved, whether it be families or staff.
Thank you. So this is strictly in-house, if you will.
Yes, very much so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Lori,
Yep.
I was asked
Yeah.
a question today. I'm heartened to see that you have travel on there as one of the reasons that people are being tested. How are you ascertaining if people have traveled? It's not on the symptom screener, so is that just, like you said, through voluntary cooperation, or, because I haven't seen anything personally as a parent that has necessarily, like, there's a place you go to if you travel, for example. Is it just a phone call?
So we've been working with families who are self-disclosing. I've been putting in all of my communications out and reminding people they're supposed to be filling out the state's travel form. If they comply with that, then the health officials locally actually get record of it and can do the follow-up through that. So far, the families have been very open, sometimes before they travel, sometimes after they travel. I will have to acknowledge it's self-disclosure, so we don't know what we don't know.
And it only includes states that are identified by the state government as high risk.
Yes.
Got
Yes.
it.
Which changes, it's changed almost weekly the last couple of weeks.
Mhm.
And generally, New England, New Jersey, and New York have stayed stable. But people should be watching that. If you're planning any travel, you've got to factor that whole process in. I've actually been really pleased with the amount of self-disclosure we seem to be having. I think people are, overall, I feel really, really strongly this community wants to be in school and is working with us to make it happen. So I can keep bringing you these numbers. I just think it's really interesting because what this says out loud, right, in very clear black and white, we always are waiting on COVID test results, and any moment a positive might occur. Hopefully the rates stay low enough. It's very unlikely, but we're always, I haven't had a day since, early last week where you don't have somebody in testing and waiting to get results back. So. But I feel good about that because they're in testing, and I think it starts to add to some of our assurances.
One quick question before you move on. Are you considering, just for the way you're building out this our personal dashboard, stratifying students by like not grade level, but like elementary, middle, and high school level, as well as the different reasons for testing?
Yeah, we have all that.
Okay.
I collapsed it here. I could break it out for you.
No, it's just, it's fine.
Yeah. And then transportation and traffic, which are now one and the same. Arrival and dismissal is a significant effort by the leaders at all of the schools. There's no doubt about that. Many of our plans have worked. Many of our pieces of the plans are needing tweaks, and they're doing that on a daily basis. I would say more so dismissal than arrival, because dismissal is some level of cars waiting to receive children versus dropping them and continuing to move on. We're gaining time every day at all of the schools. I know I've said this in public, and I just am going to continue to say it. I said it to the police chief and town manager. The support of the Concord police has been phenomenal. We have multiple officers still into this week at every school. We're meeting with them regularly so we can look at how we start taking that on ourselves, or do we need some long-term police support? Those discussions are all happening, but their commitment to all of this and the safety of what we're doing was extraordinary, and at their initiative, which I thought was even more important. So the hot spots are dismissal at Sanborn, Alcott, and Thoreau. Probably not surprises to anyone if you know the locations of those schools. So we're continuing to work there, especially. We have a wait list of parents who have asked to return to the bus. We kind of shut that down as we had to build the routes in a few days. John Arena and his staff built those routes in a few days 2 weeks ago. So at some point we had to sort of stop the moving pieces. We have 70 students right now on the wait list to return. Our intent, ridership has been actually very low. So I expect it's a combination of people who signed the waiver, but also people who have just been driving. So we're going to give the wait list a look fairly soon to see where there are spots that kids could get on the bus, because obviously the more kids on the bus, the less traffic is. So we're in continual review here. I think, it's just been a few days. It'll continue to get better. And then once we've made all the tweaks we can, we'll know where there's still things to figure out. But overall, given the number and the volume, it's going pretty smoothly.
Lori, quick question on the transportation. Has there been any messaging to the parents about not idling as they're waiting?
We're working on that messaging. I was at the Willard staff meeting yesterday. And it's just one example. It's a discussion everywhere, I'm sure, especially with the warm weather and the air conditioning in the cars. It came up yesterday as a piece to start messaging out to families.
Good.
All the signs say 5 minutes or less, so we do need to start asking that of people. Jared's been really actively firsthand taking these readings. The middle schools are both being monitored. We finished the HVAC work that needed to be done in large part so that all the spaces are safe and usable. We are taking at least, you can see it's more than this. I just grabbed this off our master spreadsheet yesterday. Weekly readings at both middle school buildings or more often. The threshold is 1,100 where you'd have a concern. We are well below that. We've been taking it on humid days, dry days, kids in the room, kids not in the room. So far, we're in good shape there. So that'll be at least weekly, if not more. And we continue to be getting a wide range of different spots throughout the school. And then again, I have to reference, it's not just been the police. I think almost every Concord Town Department has had some role in helping us to reopen. Concord Recreation, DPW, reconfiguring the Sanborn driveway. The list just goes on and on. PPE through the fire department. We're working with the fire department this week on fire drills and what those look like with social distancing. It's just been extraordinary. The health officials, Susan Rask and Tricia McKeon, are literally in contact with us multiple times a day in informational ways, questions, clarification, things we need their expertise in. I'm in a really healthy email thread with the private schools because we're all sharing the same projects here and goals, and everyone's back to school this week in some form. So we're celebrating with each other a little bit. And I think that communication is going to be critical because any of us gets a hotspot. It's going to be something the others need to know. And I know several of you have met with Emerson, but their ongoing engagement with us right up through opening, they were helping us get a couple of variations in masks that we needed right the day before, and just dropping everything to do that. And it just has been a really, really huge community partnership. So the list would go on and on if we itemized it, but it really has been a community endeavor to open these schools, and that support feels ongoing, and it's been really, really helpful and probably critical at different points. So I think those are my highlights for where we are today. Again, we're just in the first few days here, but exhaling a little bit as we now look at what's working and what needs tweaking, and supporting teachers in the massive, enormous tasks they're taking on, enjoying every minute with the children. I think that's probably what I should start and end with. The replenishment to our professional and personal satisfaction is been restored pretty quickly. I'm hearing that from a lot of teachers. You almost don't know how you miss it till you have it back. And I think we are all definitely sensing that it's mattered a lot. So no, it was all worth it has been the word I've heard a lot over the last week. And that matters a lot because of how much effort it took. So I have overall really positive things to say, and really, really grateful for all the work it took from so many people to get to this point. We have a lot coming at us, we know that, but just sort of glad we're here today, and your support mattered greatly, and we all will just keep at it here together. I think watching data, watching and reviewing, and we can talk with you on what those formal processes would be. And I'd love to bring you some reports at a more specific topic and area, because there'll be lots of stories to tell as we keep making our way through it. Technology being one, that's a whole standalone presentation and what's going on there. You know, there's all these silos of work that are happening simultaneously that we'd love to keep bringing to you. But that's where we are tonight. Feels really, really good. And we know it's fragile. So we're, I think, not taking a thing for granted. And that's probably making it even more special. So.
Lori, I think we can echo, I know the school committee can echo your thanks to town departments, and certainly what's happening at every building. I think the team at Ripley is deserving of our appreciation as well. They may not be as visible to the community as are some other school personnel, but they are there 12 months a year, supporting everybody in the school buildings that serve kids directly. So our thanks to them.
Yeah, thank you, Court. Very, very much, very true.
And I'm going to give a shout out to this week to the front office staff, because I know I know how hard they work and how it's just, it's a hard job in normal times, but it's particularly important right now. Since a community member did bring it out regarding lunch, it does make sense to me to try to tweak that as much to get kids outside versus inside. Yep. and sort of look forward to the cold weather and see what we can do there. So I don't want an answer. I think it's a very good question, and we should discuss it more at one of our next meetings.
The kids are eating outside at both the middle and high schools, and we can bring you more from there. So we agree. I guess we'll leave it at that. We agree.
And then it's on our agenda specifically, so I don't want to get into a discussion about testing again. But maybe at our next meeting we can have, if there's anything new on that front.
Yeah, I think that right now the internal dashboard that you've done that shows the tests that are ongoing or recently done, I think that is a really nice snapshot to see.
Great, thank you. I was definitely wanting your feedback on that tonight, so thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
I know that this means, because it's a public meeting, that you technically already shared it with the community, but would that dashboard, the one that you do personally of Above and Beyond Susan's, be something you're thinking about sharing in your very well-read emails that you send out?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was that we'd share both simultaneously. And I'm planning on a weekly email, because the principals, probably at the end of the week, because the principals are so consumed with logistics during the week. I think it would be an important piece to share out. I think that would
a lot of peace of mind.
Good. All right. Thank you. That's the feedback I was hoping for tonight.
I had a question about the buses. You said that ridership is low. So does that mean there are no shows, or are they linked to students who are staying home?
I think, well, probably a little of both, as we clean up our lists and make sure we've got everyone where we thought they were. I feel like it's more choice of driving versus taking the bus, but kids who had not fully opted out. We're going to start to really look at that data now that we're into the second week and better understand who's riding and who's not.
Are there any conditions under which you can, I mean, I know you can't really lose your spot because you're entitled to your spot, but if there's someone who is holding a spot on the bus but not utilizing it for the most part, how do you navigate that?
I think our hope, I don't know if we can do it this week or it'll take a little bit of time, but if someone's consistently not coming, make a phone call and check in to see if they're planning on using the spot. I would think that would be absolutely something we would be looking to do, because especially with a waiting list, we don't want to hold spots if we can get other kids on.
I would jump in with a couple of things. I want to echo the thanks to the town committees and the police. Oh my gosh, they've been so helpful out on the roads, incredibly, and the front office. And I just want to share from a parent's perspective some impressions. I've been dropping off and picking up at 3 different buildings, and the energy coming out of those schools and out of the kids when they come back out, it's just incredible. I mean, I was, okay, not that this never happens that I get moved to tears, but I was moved to tears the first day that I dropped off and picked up. And I just have to say, we've heard about all of these challenges and talked about them hour after hour. But I feel like that the teachers and the administrators and all the rest of the staff in the building just got in and blew it out of the water. I mean, you said even better than you expected. And I have heard the same from kids, from parents. My kids have been coming home saying, I can't wait to go to school again, just to get back in the building. And I just can't express enough how much value that brings to those kids. I mean, they're so happy to be in the buildings with peers and with teachers and to connect. And I want teachers to hear that. I want the staff to hear it, the administrators, everybody who's out there on the curbs welcoming us every morning and then helping get them out again in the afternoon. The energy and the vibe is really overwhelming. And I just want to share that. It's been really impressive.
I agree.
And a couple other, I guess, more tactical things. Another thing I'm impressed at just in seeing what you were talking about is the flexibility already, the fact that you're actually trying to get some kids back in person. I didn't think would happen so quickly, and that's really neat to hear. So I thank you for just looking at this whole thing in such a flexible way. And the continual review of things, I think, is really important. I was going to mention the testing also, and like we said, we're not going to discuss it every time, but I do think that's very important, especially as new information comes out, that we monitor carefully any new information and talk about it here as soon as there's something relevant, because that's certainly critical if we can. Another quick note, just to reiterate your process on the symptom screener as an example of how efficient it is. There was one morning already that I missed one of the checkoffs for one of my kids. And before I got back to the house from dropping him off, I had already gotten an email and came home and rechecked it right then. So it was incredibly efficient. I didn't get more than a half hour without a reminder. So
I got mine 20 minutes before school started, which was helpful.
there you go. Maybe mine was there too and I didn't even see it.
Probably.
Probably.
Well, it's set, it's in, the gift of our talented IT staff, it's set to remind you before school. And then if you still haven't done it, you get another one 15 minutes after school starts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're right on top of it. And my only other question would be, is there anything else that you see on the radar, whether, we had talked about it before or not, that we could be of help in? Is there anything else where you need our support or help in any way?
No, I think we've hit on it a little. I think it's really going to be about the balance of time and where we're putting our energy. There's no avoiding the amount of time the logistics are going to take. That's not going to become the automatic. It'll get easier, but always have high levels of need for attention to it in a way that we're not used to, or because you build it and then it runs itself to a large extent. And I just think we have to continue to factor that in. I also think it's just super important. I've said this to the administrators. We met for the first time really this morning more formally, balancing all the other things we're going to try to accomplish this year. For example, we're going to be working with teachers on evaluation goals. We're going to run the process, absolutely. But their evaluation goals really are going to be about teaching and learning in this new environment, and not trying to add to that or get more detailed than that, and just understanding the task that is in and of itself. So, and I'm looking to some of the veterans here. We've talked about pace a lot in the last few years, with no great fix, frankly, right? It's all very positively intended, the pace at which our district runs, and very successful because of it. But this year we need to be really cautious and careful about what we're trying to accomplish, on top of reinventing school from start to finish in all that we've had to do to get here, and now what we have to maintain. So I think that's probably what I'm going to ask of you the most, is pace is going to be really important. and what we want to try to accomplish in this environment needs to be really thought through. We're going to be accomplishing an awful lot of those objectives in and of themselves, just because innovation is one of them, social emotional is one of them, all of that's happening. Cultural competency absolutely is one of them, and all those things you've said prior are important. The middle school needs to get back on track, but let's not just fill our time with other things beyond what are the priorities. I think that would be my biggest ask. I need to be in buildings every single day, and I'm committed to that. And everyone around me needs to help make that happen, because the last few years, that's been the goal, and I haven't been able to get there. And this year, I think it's just really critical for everyone's sake that I'm front and center and firsthand with this environment, given what it involves and the stakes that are attached. So that's my longer answer than you probably were looking for, but it's been on our minds a lot today through various conversations. So
yeah. No, that's critical, because in the next few weeks we'll be talking about our goals, your goals, district goals, and that's critical. That we have to be looking at that in the right context and through the right lens, and our job needs to be to support that, not to, take you off in other directions.
And I think COVID's another lens to some of those. And I know we're going to get into this next time, but just even, for example, the remote population of kids, we need to be sure they're feeling really included in what we're doing. And that's a whole nother aspect of cultural competency. We've never had to figure that out before. And it's going to be different than any other type we've had to figure out because of the just pure physical distance with those kids. So, so COVID lens on everything will be plenty full of initiatives, I guess is my
right.
I mean, at the secondary level, we only have kids in the buildings 2 days a week.
Yes.
That's a pretty big deal. And I'm so thrilled that they're there 2 days a week. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But yes. Yep.
Lori, would you be able to speak to at the high school level, the compliance and how are things going with masking and spacing? What are you seeing in the classrooms? I know you had an opportunity to visit the high school.
I've been at the high school a few times, 3 times in the 5 days we've opened. We have amazing kids. I just have to say it like that. We had not one mask issue today, Jared, on a bus. Just forgotten, nothing more than that. Other than that, the kids have their masks on all the time when they're supposed to. Take them off for mask breaks and lunch. The distancing in the classroom is exceptional. We continue to watch and monitor hallways and how those patterns are working. Lunch, but I have to say, we weren't sure what to expect, when they have a block where we let them, they're in a big room and they're asked to sit at a desk and stay apart from each other. And we're just standing there looking at them thinking how amazing our kids are. They're doing what it takes to be in school. And it's just been really phenomenal. Very few reminders. They're doing what we've asked of them. And frankly, I thought we were gonna have to do this whole training thing and really build them up to it. We didn't. We set the stage, said, here's what we need from you, and then they're doing it, which shouldn't surprise us. That's what we see in normal times, but to watch them do it in crisis with so much around it been pretty special, yeah.
What I hear from students who live in my neighborhood is that where they work especially hard is on managing the corridors.
Yes.
They've got to really work at it.
Yeah, we're all working at it and trying to be sure we're staggering them so it's a little less work for them because the structures allow it to be a little spaced just naturally. We have bathroom monitors at the bathrooms we've opened at the high school. There's an adult there. We've really created structures that I think have helped to ensure success, but the kids get the credit for it right now. We've been nothing but just really impressed.
We are grateful for everybody's vigilance. This is not easy work.
No.
Well, we are grateful for the students' buy-in that they really want to remain on campus and they are completely in, and it shows. So I'm really happy to see that.
I agree.
I wonder if we could return to one of your slides. You don't have to pull it up, but the HVAC and air quality slide. By way of interpretation, I don't know if this is for you, Jared. Are you looking at trends there? What did that tell us? Because we saw a snapshot of a larger data set.
Yep. So basically their levels right now are really healthy. I've been going into the classrooms. I'm the only one that's doing right now the CO2 monitoring. And, you know, I'm going to continue to on the humid days. The really hot humid day was last Thursday. So I'm getting some classrooms upon request, and then they're adding some. So we're just going to keep doing it. And then when we have that data, sort of run it by our consultant. What does this mean? But right now, a lot of our classrooms, the air quality is really the matching up to what is outside, and that's good news. We've worked on all of the dampers, all 100 dampers. We have air purifiers. So the team really did a great job to get these two buildings healthy, and the numbers are showing that.
And just another shout out to the town. We had our own vendors in, and then the town sent us their HVAC person for the entire week before school opened, pretty much on no notice at all. It's been just
Awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
And then we do, just so you know, we have Viking Controls coming in every Wednesday to just take a look at our systems, and then just to make sure our plan is working, and to give us continuous feedback. And as we get into the colder months, they're also going to give us a plan.
Thank you.
And these are, Jared, and these are the numbers with the kids in the classrooms. So we get a snapshot of air quality while you have all the bodies. Well, not all the bodies, because we only have a small portion of our students now attending. So it's, you won't have the same CO2 if we were completely full in person. But this is with the students in classroom.
All of them have had at least 7 or more students in them, and we thought that that was sort of the magic number after talking to the consultant. One classroom I went twice, and I gave 2 measurements. That was the fax room at the Sanborn, and the levels were actually the same as when the kids were in there and when they weren't. And I'm going to continue to monitor that. But yeah.
You're saying, Jared, the levels have been basically similar to outside levels?
On some of them.
That's incredible.
So on the first floor, on a few of them, like the fax room, that was very similar. In our gyms, our gym readings have been really, really healthy.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we've become all about the data here, and that's just become such a great way to continue to keep track of it. And I think also a good communication tool, so we can share what we know, and, you know, in a really easy to understand way.
All right.
And
thank you, Lori.
yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say how grateful and lucky we are that we have people from the town and the resources to have the HVAC that works well, have all the PPEs, have all the preparations, and be able to complete, because that's not the case. If you listen to the news, that's not the case necessarily in other parts of Massachusetts. So we are really grateful for all the support that, you know, our schools are getting, and all the resources and all the work that has been put in to keep our kids safe.
All right, thank you, Lori. If we don't have other comments or questions, we can move on to school committee meeting schedule. I think our questions are, at what point might we revert to our first and third Tuesdays, if indeed we want to do that? Second question is, do we keep our current time that is earlier than it was in the past? And third, for the foreseeable future, can we expect virtual meetings to be our method?
So I think just going backwards from what you just said, I believe the town of Concord still has a restriction on in-person meetings. I don't think that's been lifted.
Correct. Yeah. Mhm.
So I think until that happens, at least the Concord School Committee can't meet in person, even if we entertain that.
And I think our virtual meetings have really been a boon, a blessing, because we've had so much participation from the public.
I think the low attendance today is a testament to how great a job the administration and the teachers and everyone and the town has done this week.
Yeah. If it wasn't going so well, we'd have a lot more people here.
Yes.
I also think, as we're talking about this, that we need to refer back to Lori's answer to my last question. And what she said very diplomatically could also be translated as, let's not get in her way of being productive here. I think it makes sense to go back to twice a month. I don't think we should need to meet more than every other week now, unless, of course, something comes up and we need to add it. But I think we should be defaulting to every other week.
So I just have a bit of a caveat there, because we're so far behind this year. So we don't really have any kind of a calendar for our financial, how that's going to roll out. So I feel like if we can get our house in order over the next couple of weeks, then I would feel comfortable absolutely moving to a twice monthly meeting. But I feel like there's a lot of work we need to do that we would have done over the summer for the next year, this year. And we did, we have a budget, that's great, but we haven't even started our budget for next year. And I agree, I think we should scale back on our lofty goals that we sometimes have, but we still need to set them, and the superintendent's goals. And I do feel like we need to do some kind of a workshop with our new members, which we would do. So we can't, I think to accomplish all those things, I think we need to meet over the next 2 weeks. And then maybe then if we get our work done, and it's really our work for the most part, then I would agree that we should move to that cadence.
So just a note on the workshop, I've actually reached out to Dorothy Presser, who's our MASC liaison. She's booked all through September, but can do October Tuesdays.
Okay.
So I tentatively scheduled with her for October 13th. It just happened. I was going to bring this up with all of you to see if that works and makes sense. So assuming we have a meeting on October 13th, she could come and do a workshop with us.
Okay.
And this would be role of committee, and then some specifics, I imagine, like how we operate within our 3 major responsibility areas, and how things have to be managed around open meeting law, and we could delve into any questions we might have about ethics, if people have all done their ethics workshop online by then, which I hope would be the case. And those of us who have been on the committee for a while, I think we recycle back to that ethics training every 2 years, as I recall.
Exactly. And Dorothy won't just repeat everything that we've already heard. Presumably, whether the new members have done charting the course yet or not, there's a lot of basic information there. And what we try to do with Dorothy is kind of take that basic information, the high level, what does a school committee member do, et cetera, and bring it down closer to reality. Let's talk a little bit about how we actually operate here, and what does that mean to us in terms of how we operate.
So Heather, what about this? We know we need to meet next week. Is that correct? Or not?
I don't know.
Well, we haven't set our liaison roles yet.
True. But does that have to happen next week? I don't know. I had kind of wondered, do we give ourselves 2 weeks now to set up a meeting 2 weeks from now that it addresses a lot of these things you're talking about, to set the liaison roles, to go through some, start to look at goals, start to look at more of the other information that we need, more of the setup that we need to do. But, everybody weigh in here.
Let's say, so we're off our cadence, but that's fine. So the 29th we would meet. Right?
Right, exactly. 2 weeks from now is the 29th. I'm switching to a calendar here. Yep.
And then the only thing I've observed during COVID is we go much slower. So I just want to be sure that we don't set 5-hour meeting agendas.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
And I think that's a good point. That's something we all should be aware of now too. And I think as we've led up to this school opening, there's been so much to look at and so much uncertainty. And we've wanted to make sure that everybody can really ask all the questions that they need to. And not that we want to limit questions going forward, but I think we do want to think about, okay, school's in session now and we have a lot to do. Let's try to use our meetings very efficiently and move things along so that we're not setting up 5-hour meetings.
Can
I
I please?
think there's one piece of that I can help with, because with the meetings being so quick against each other, we aren't able to provide you a normal packet of information that you would really study prior to the meeting and come in an informed way. I've been thinking about this week. If we get back to 2 weeks, we're going to give you a whole packet that brings you in at a different place, where I think all summer, and really since we closed, we've been in a much more deliver it to you at the meeting. And that's a different starting point, which I think is partly adding to the timing. So just
Yeah, I
a
think that would help.
for thought piece.
yeah, so let's experiment and try for a 2-week and see what happens on the 29th. And we'll give it our best.
Yeah.
I think you do bring up a good point, which, given that we've typically been first and third Tuesdays, going every 2 weeks from today would have us off of that, right? We'd be on, at least for October, the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays.
Well, and with Dorothy, we're already off.
We're off anyway in October because one of those Tuesdays is going to be Dorothy.
Right, exactly. Which right now is the 13th. We could probably, I could still ask if we can move her to a different Tuesday. That was only as of a few days ago, and she still had.
She's very busy, so let's just keep the 13th. Let's see how things go the 29th, and maybe we could just do the 13th and the whatever, and then we resume our normal cadence and try to figure out a way to resume normal cadence in our another. I mean, honestly, I think one way or another, we're probably gonna have back-to-back meetings for one reason or another.
Well, there might be. We could also think of the workshop with Dorothy. We want to be able to have some discussion about how things are working, and without limiting it. So I'll just throw this out. Do we keep the 13th as just a workshop? And we don't have an agenda of other items. We're not doing superintendent's report and chair's report and everything else. It's just a workshop.
Yep,
Yeah.
for that.
And if we did that, we would, hold on, I'm speaking and kind of thinking out loud as I go here. We would,
If we take the next week and we figure out what it is, what are the tasks that need to be done, like what do we need to do over the year and what do we need to do over the next couple of months, and try to identify where we can put everything, so that if we have a meeting on the 29th, it might be that we have a meeting on the 29th and the 6th, and then the workshop on the 13th, and then start back onto the normal 1st and 3rd. But it may be that the meeting on the 29th isn't necessary if we can figure out how to tackle all that other, wherever we're behind. I don't know where we're behind compared to where you would normally be at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that we keep the 29th, we keep the 13th with Dorothy. And we take the next week really to figure out what it is, where are we behind, and what is the schedule that we want to track, as closely as possible, understanding that we may come up with new meetings here and there as needed.
that makes sense.
One of the first tasks of the chairs and I is to sit and map all that out and sketch it across the next month and make sure.
to your point, Sarah, and maybe this is contrary to what I just said, if we keep the 13th as just a workshop night, we could end up with 3 weeks in a row of meetings if we have a meeting the week before and the week after and everything. So maybe that doesn't make sense. It might be that we just have a meeting that night that's workshop and other things, and we go the every 2 weeks, and we get to first and third in November instead of October. Maybe October's meetings are the second and the fourth week, and that's okay.
At some point, there's going to be a back-to-back.
Right.
So I would just very much support having the workshop be independent, because I think.
I would agree. I think it's not going to be a proper effort if we are trying to carry on other kinds of business. Workshop for workshop. The suggestion I'm hearing from Heather as you try to digest these different ideas, September could be tonight and then the 29th. The October could be 2nd and 4th also, if indeed we don't have more work to do, because we're going to avoid 5-hour meetings. And if we have to slide another meeting into October, hopefully it's an efficient business meeting, but not one that would have extensive reports for extensive discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah and I can meet with Lori and map out what we think might be wise, present it to you. We'll take our best guess about budget development and FinCom expectations into the planning and the mapping of the calendar.
Yeah, and Jared and I will work on that as the rest of this week goes into, so we start to have that timeline sketched out.
So
And one thing is that I'll harken back to the old days, is that we used to have joint meetings and Concord meetings, but it doesn't really seem like with COVID that makes sense, because it just.
What we've gotten better at is doing all the regional stuff first, if there's pure Concord things, and then doing that at the end of the meeting so the Carlisle members don't have to stay.
Yep.
I agree with you, Cynthia. I don't see a lot of split happening at the moment.
No.
That can be part of the conversation of when we do the mapping out.
Perfect.
So the concern that I have now is that we have now one business meeting in October only. It sounds unlikely we'll be able to pull that off.
I think we'll end up probably with the 13th with Dorothy and 20th as a meeting. And then the November 3rd is our
Okay.
month of every, first and third.
So the question is, and you could discuss this with Dr. Hunter, but can we go from the 29th to the 20th?
That's my question. Yeah.
So what is-
Probably not. No. I wish I could give you another answer, but no, I don't think you can.
Can we go from the 15th to the 6th?
The 15th, where's the 15th?
From today to the 6th. Could we?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Well, we're saying all of this on the assumption that every meeting has to look like tonight's, that's 3 hours, and that's not necessarily true. If we had action items, we might get in and out in an hour and not rush it, because the agenda required an hour of us.
So I would say let's stick with the 29th, and you work on this with Dr. Hunter and have a proposal then.
And why don't we all reserve, for now, every Tuesday for the next 2 months, so that when the chairs come back to us soon with, okay,
Mhm.
in addition to the base ones we have, here's the one we're adding, we already know that everybody can make it.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
And then we'll draft a plan to bring to you.
So to that end, are there any members who know that they have specific Tuesdays that they could not attend under any circumstances? looks like we'll all make it work. Okay, good.
The 22nd is a tough one for me, but that one I think we've already skipped, so.
It's in a week from now.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, you get a pass on that one, Sarah. All right, so I hope that's adequate for now. And we're looking at October with first and third, and then budget prep will intrude as well.
Yep.
Okay. So with that, I think the newest agenda has what's called here new member information. And this is dated Concord School Committee practices, and then again, Concord Carlisle School Committee practices. Both dates are 2018, 2019, but I believe that we adopted these last fall also. Am I correct, Heather and Cynthia?
Yes.
So I do note on one of these that it reminds us that chairs will attend the monthly PTG President's Meeting. That's another part of our
That's right. We forgot to tell you about that, Sarah.
travel plans, so to speak.
And that's hosted by Dr. Hunter, correct?
That's correct, yes. And I believe that's, I don't know, first Monday, second Monday it was.
I'm actually looking at that. Since my calendar is in a new state, I'm not just going back to the same time on everything. So I'll be in touch with you on what to do with that.
Very good, okay. I wonder what the way forward is on this. Is it a share where we, between now and October 13th, look at these, understand them, and if we're going to make any changes, we do so before or on October 13th and then formally adopt them then? Is that a way to go where these become de facto what we're trying to adhere to as we look at them and re-adopt them for the new year? Is that a way forward?
I think so. Typically, we look at them every year, make sure they still make sense. This year, we may have more revisions because we're operating in such a different environment. In fact, I would recommend we probably put a little more definition around, protocols in remote meetings, just because this is a new environment that we meet in. So we probably want to add that. And the rest of it, though, again, and what I shared to all of you by email was these and the strategic plan that we have. I wanted to make sure at least that we all start to get on the same page in terms of direction we're heading and information that we're working off of. So this is a good place for us all to look at these, digest them, and discuss so that we're all synchronized on how we're operating.
And when I think back to when I started serving, this was important to me. The required charting the course was important to me. The ethics training was important to me. The town committee handbook was important to me. And I believe, in fact, I know a swearing in by the town clerk was one of my stops as well. And town clerks will reach out to you if you don't reach out to them, I think.
Can we get sworn in?
Well, how she wants to do it in this COVID era, I don't know, but yes, in
Okay.
some way, shape, or form, yes.
We should email Kari.
Mhm. So with that, do we have questions now about this document? This is going to be a working document for a short period of time. So we'll dialogue around it more than once, but anything right now? So hearing none, this is our homework then to digest this and understand that collectively we're going to refine it if we wish to and adopt it formally.
I would recommend on the homework list that we also add the strategic plan. I had sent a link to it. Anybody can find it's actually it's linked right off of the main page of our website. It's in Lori's text there. So not hard to find, but I would say everybody should get very familiar with the strategic plan. That really is what helps to direct us, and it's from that we derive our goals, that the superintendent derives her goals. And so it's very important to be familiar with that.
Let's take a moment and answer this question. How will new members, if they wish, learn more and get closer to the budget process and the budget management process? Because we want to make that as efficient as we can and not and burden Jared only in the most efficient way we can, but still get what we need.
I'm going to answer for him because we've talked about that. We expected that, especially new members, we're going to need some onboarding with the budget process. So we're happy to figure out what that looks like. The only restriction is obviously a quorum of you can't come all do it at once, but we know we need to do that. I think we're happy to do that. I think individually would almost be the best, if not a pair at most, but a real personal way was my envision of it. A few hours together prior to the first meeting where we bring it and start talking as if we assume you know everything.
Yeah, because you live and breathe this for so many days and weeks and months that
Right.
your level of familiarity at a detailed level far exceeds our own as a rule. Yeah.
So we want to try to have everyone in on a similar amount of background information before we.
So would it be appropriate for people to reach out to you individually, Lori, and expect that it might take a couple of weeks for you to schedule something into your work schedule?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'd say at the very least, we should Concord members especially should look at the budget books and look at the Concord FinCom report. One of the real ones, actually, from prior years.
Jared, you can push those books. Why don't you push last year's? Of course, the budget books you're going to read aren't the budgets we just approved, but it'll give you the idea.
They're very close.
Yeah, they're close, and they're going to give you a little more of the narrative that goes with the budget. So it's not just pages and numbers.
And what I've started since I've been here is a fall budget book too. So we're going to be working on that. It's really, we turned the FinCom letter into a budget book. So that really summarizes the prior year. So that will be so you can look, and I'll push this out, but you can look at last year's budget book, and then the one that's going to come up in October will really start summarizing how we ended and what we envisioned for 22.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Jared. All right. So with that,
Onto action items, right?
yeah. And this is a Concord and Carlisle. So it's a joint.
Yep.
Sarah, do you want to do this, please?
Yep. Heather, did you want to say something?
Sure, I know, I was just going to make the motion.
Can someone like to make a motion that the
Yes, I'd love to.
Concord Carlisle School Committees vote to approve the following staff request to enroll their child in the Concord Public Schools, Concord Carlisle Regional School District, beginning September 2020, and that tuition be waived. And that would be for Jessica Baker, teacher at Thoreau, son to enroll in kindergarten. Do I hear?
Moved. For both committees.
Is there a second?
For both.
Discussion? No. Roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye for both.
Booth,
Aye for both.
Bout,
Aye for both.
where are we? Mezda?
Lose track.
I for both.
Is he here? Yeah. Mustuvi,
Mustafi for region, thanks.
Rainey,
Aye for both.
Wilson, I for region. The motion passes. And with that, are we at a motion to end the meeting?
I think so. just mention first, it's nice to have our whole new group officially seated. Glad to have you all here. And then I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that for both.
Right, roll call vote. Anderson,
Aye for both.
Booth,
Aye for both.
Bout,
Aye for both.
Mesdad,
Aye for both.
Mastufi,
Aye for region.
Rainey,
Aye for both.
Wilson, I for region. So moved.
And we're-
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Again.